The Love Life and Lose Weight podcast will teach you the art and science of changing your habits around food. If you know what to do, but can't figure out why you're just not doing it, this is the right podcast for you. I'm your host, Advanced Certified Weight and Life Coach Heather Beardsley. I've helped hundreds of women just like you figure out how to think and eat like a normal eater, lose weight, and love life on the journey to goal weight and beyond. Welcome to episode 86. This episode is all about permission-based eating. Maybe you've thought to yourself, if I eat fill in the blank, I'll never stop. So it's like we have to police ourselves around certain foods by restricting access to those foods. So what I'm offering to you today is a hypothesis that I want you to consider, which is that this method of considering certain foods, not questioning the thought that you have no control or that you can't trust yourself around it, and therefore you regulate or police yourself around when, how much, and how often you have this food. When it comes from a place of assuming distrust and you truly also want that food, is actually the reason why you have over desire in the first place. So, in this podcast episode, we're going to talk about what is permission based eating. We're going to explore that a little bit more. Then we're going to talk about once you consider letting go of the internal policing of food, your access to it, your permission to have it, and how much. What comes in is fear. And I'm going to help you navigate through the fear. Then we're going to talk about how to practice permission-based eating, even though you're going to have fear about it. We're also going to talk about what if you gain weight as you practice permission-based eating, because that is a possibility. We're going to address your body image fears. We're going to explore what you would make that mean if you did see the scale go up. And I'm also going to help you explore why seeing your weight change while practicing permission-based eating is actually part of the healing of this mistrust that is playing out in real time with your weight. And until you get in there and you really open up that locked door and you turn on the light in that dark room around internal policing, around food, this will likely stay with you forever. So it requires intentional experimentation, being brave, and finding courage. Now, I want to also say this point, not everybody has this. If you feel like, no, I pretty much let myself have what I want to have, then this podcast may not be right for you. But if you are somebody who has always had fears around giving yourself permission or to eat certain foods or allow yourself a lot of restriction, like if you have restriction around food rules around certain foods and feel out of control or that you overeat these foods, then this is for you. So you decide if you want to keep listening. At the end, I'm going to give you a worksheet that you can access. That's free to access. You have to be on my subscription, my email list to get the worksheet. Okay, and I'll tell you how to get all that at the end. Okay, so if I let myself eat, for example, ice cream, I'll never stop eating it. That is, thinking like that is evidence that you are not in permission-based eating. And in order to have your weight normalize, like to reach your goal weight and to be able to stay at your goal weight, if you can get there, requires that you practice permission-based eating. It doesn't mean that you won't have boundaries, right? Based in trust. But policing food because you don't trust yourself and you've never given yourself a chance to trust yourself by getting in there and experimenting with permission-based eating, that's the work that is part and parcel of um, non-restrictive weight management for life. So if this work is still ahead of you, that could be why you've lost momentum, why you've stalled, why you can't keep going. I see this a lot with my clients where fluctuating weight, up, down, never really going all the way or losing that final 10 or 20 pounds, even. What that often means is that we're bumping into restriction based eating and we can't kind of overcome it unless we do this work on purpose. And I get so excited actually when I recognize this with my clients. What usually happens is we notice that there's a big overeat with that kind of food. And there's a lot of shame and judgment on my client's part because they overate it. And there's sort of regret around, and the thinking goes like this. Well, if I would have just controlled myself more or controlled the access to that food, I wouldn't have this problem. And that's like barking up the wrong tree. Um, what it's really about is it's showing us that you don't have a relationship with this food based on experience, a lot of experimentation, and practicing permission based eating. And then, of course, bringing in boundaries through that experience. But just saying, like, you're not allowed to have this because you're untrustworthy. Imagine how that part of that inner self feels. Like, you've never been at this place with your eating before at this age with this amount of experience. And maybe you tried this before, but you haven't tried it now. This is your invitation, this episode, to do this work. And I do think that summertime is a great time to do the work of permission based eating. So let's start with a definition. Permission based eating is the practice of letting yourself eat what you want when you're hungry without guilt or judgment or labels of this is good food or bad food. You will be asking questions of like, what would I like to eat? I have ideas of, your manager brain is always kind of whispering of like, what are the virtuous things to eat? But we want to interrupt that. If you're going to do this work around permission based eating and you want to ask yourself, what do I want to eat? And you could ask, what would feel satisfying? What sounds good to me right now? And what you're doing when you ask those questions, when you make your plan, hopefully in your planner every day, is that you're creating a conversation between manager you, who we need to change habits around food and lose weight, and that inner self who has her own tastes and preferences for food. She kind of wants what she wants when she wants it. And in how we've been conditioned to lose weight in the past, the restrictive diet thinking says that manager self needs to lock inner self in the trunk of the car of your weight loss and not listen to what she has to say because we fear her preferences, we fear her desires, we fear her cravings. And we just assume that if we work with her, we will be out of control. And I want you to really question that whole line of thinking. And instead, I want to offer you this idea of inner self and manager self working together every day, where you consider what you would like to feed yourself with, what kinds of food. And when they get together and they have a conversation, it means that there's listening. There's accepting your tastes and preferences to be what they are. If you're an ice cream girl, you're going to be an ice cream girl. If you're a baked goods girl, you're going to be a baked goods girl. Our job is to not remove food from us that we truly want, but our job is to learn how to notice when we want food, and then plan it strategically, right? With boundaries, loving boundaries, where we can get the best of both worlds, where we can be strategic around what, when, and how much we eat. And then we can also be allowing to plan for the things that we truly want to eat. And my premise is there's a way to weigh what you want to weigh, your happy weight, whatever it is, and have the best of both of those worlds. I mean, all you have to do is look out into the world for evidence that this is true. We've all seen people in our lives who are eating our form of forbidden foods, and they have a normalized weight. And that is at its best evidence that there's a way for you to have what you want to have in quantities and amounts that allow you to still be at your happy weight. That's the work of permission-based eating. It's a game changer because when you tell yourself you can't have something, your brain goes into scarcity mode. This is a psychological human response that we all have, where when we think that something is limited, it increases desire. I have an undergraduate degree in economics, and this whole premise of scarcity versus abundance and how it affects consumer desire, all of economic theory is based on this. This is just how humans are. So you have to really see how limiting or making scarce the food that you actually want to eat increases your desire for it. You can look up reams of evidence about why this is true, but do you really need to do that? All you need to know is when I tell myself I can't have something, I kind of want it even more. And you might be able to white knuckle it for a while, but this is when we see periodic binges or overeats of this food that we've restricted ourselves from permission to have. So I'm going to be your guide to help you navigate this in a way that feels safe. So when you truly allow yourself to have all foods, then the urgency fades, the scarcity decreases, and food just becomes food. But you can never do this in theory. You actually have to do it in practice, which means, I had a client that I'm working with this summer, and the final frontier for her, 2 pounds away from her goal weight, was ice cream. Now, ice cream for her, she really likes it in the summertime. Who doesn't, right? Not only that, but she has lots of warm memories of enjoying ice cream with her family. And so it's emotionally comforting for her to eat it. It's not just the taste profile on her tongue, but it's also associated with a lot of familial, happy memories. And she gets access to that when she goes through the ritual of having ice cream. But the problem is she was parceling out ice cream to herself, never as often as she wanted to have it, and never in the amounts that she wanted to, or she was doing like healthified versions of ice cream that was leaving her inner self feeling, frankly, not satisfied. So you can see this over desire persists, and no surprise, she's just short of her goal weight because this work she keeps bumping into because she's got over desire because she wasn't practicing permission based eating. So her work with me, her number one job is to plan ice cream every single day. That's the challenge I gave her. At least in theory, put it on the plan where she truly knows if she wants to have the ice cream, she can have it. And, that felt very scary for her. But I think there's a resonance, if this is the work for you too, that that's like this needs healing, and I have to approach it from a completely different place. If you've been working the seesaw of restriction and food jail and all of that, you need to go in the other direction and start exploring what permission feels like, right? And really stepping out into the arena with yourself to say, I'm not going to judge myself for having it. And now, once that judgment is gone, the permission is given. When I choose to have this, what is my experience of having it without that judgment, right? With permission. I'm not wrong for having it. I'm not right for having it. It's just my choice. Um, there's going to be a lot of bullshit that your brain brings up when you step into this arena. You will think thoughts that feel scary, like if I stop restricting, I'll be out of control. If I allow this, I'm going to be giving up on my goals, right? I'll take 10 steps backward, right? All my progress will be lost. Just notice how your brain is wanting you to believe what it can never know, which is what's going to happen in the future. Your brain is not a perfect magic ball of prediction into the future. Your brain doesn't know what's going to happen. It just knows that you're okay where you are right now, restricting your food, not giving permission, and anything outside of that realm, your brain is going to just buck you on. And that's just because our brains are negative. That's that reptilian part of our brain that wants us to just sit and stay where we are because taking a risk is scary. And your primal brain doesn't know the difference between having ice cream and putting yourself in harm's way, like literal harm's way. It's going to conflate these things all the time. But you're smarter than that. So you can kind of outsmart your automatic brain. So you just expect to think a lot of bullshit thoughts that feel scary about giving yourself permission to plan for and eat the things you want to eat. It doesn't have to be every day like I did with my client. But I mean, can we start with once a week? Can we start with a few times a month? Right? That will probably, if it feels better to do that, like, oh, well, yeah, I can plan for some Dairy Queen or some fresh like fruit pies that I like, peach pie, apple pie, whatever it might be, 2 times a month. Whereas before it was, I'm going to try to just not have this as long as I can hold out. Then do that. Start there. Okay. Remembering that what your brain says about planning these things are not facts. I wrote about this in my book, Love, Life, and Lose Weight. I wrote about how I got so sick of overeating baked goods when I really wanted them that I started planning to have what was it? It was chocolate croissants on the weekends, both weekend mornings, Saturday and Sunday. Hey, it's Heather. Let's pause here for a second because I want to tell you something important. I know you don't need more willpower. You need a better system. That's why I created the Follow Through Planner. It's a digital planner designed for women like you who are ready to get out of all or nothing mindset, diet mentality, and start making real sustainable progress through the work on habit change. Inside the Follow Through Digital Planner, you'll find the tools that I use with my coaching clients to help you plan your week, your days, and stay focused on what matters and really get in practice actually following through without the guilt or burnout. If you're curious about what's inside the Follow Through Planner, visit hbeardsley.com/planner. That's HBEARDSLEY.com/planner to learn more. And if you sign up to be a VIP subscriber, you get 15% off. And so I bought some frozen ones to keep in the freezer and I put it on my plan. And yeah, at the beginning, like I had to, I overate it. And then I wasn't really hungry for lunch. And then, it was like a lot of sweetness in my mouth, right? Like too much sweet. That didn't feel like a good balance. So, over the course of a few weeks within that month, I was able to, I just kept planning them, even though I was overeating them. I can really honestly can't remember if my weight went up or not. I don't think it did, to be honest with you, because what was happening was I was kind of regulating the other food I was having because my perception was I was having too much of the chocolate croissants. And the truth was that was too much. Two chocolate croissants on Saturday and Sunday mornings is too much. Like I just knew that. But that inner part, that inner self was like, well, you better have two while she's giving us permission to have it. This is what permission based eating feels like. There is two people, one who wants the thing and is going to try to get it as much as she can until she's pretty sure it's not going to be off limits anymore. And the only way that you prove that to yourself is by continually giving yourself permission to have it, even though you're overeating it. And I cannot tell you how long this phase will last. I had a client once who was overeating those blueberry mini bagels. I don't know, I've never really had those, but that was her thing. And she had them every single day for about 3.5 weeks until she was at the point where she was just like, I think I'm going to skip the blueberry bagel today. Like, I just don't want it. I don't, it's been really yummy and I've enjoyed every day of having them, but I want a little more variety now. And it's not like you have an agenda to get to this place. I mean, there are people out there in the world we know, we get glimpses now and then who kind of have the same thing every day. And that's just what they want. And their weight tends to be very kind of normalized because there isn't judgment about it. There's just like, no, this is what I want. And I trust myself. And as soon as we believe that no one's taking away food from us, we just have the experience with the food that is what it is without our sense of judgment over having the food distorting that relationship. Okay? Restriction is not discipline. Please hear me when I say this. Restriction disconnects you from your body. It creates urgency and it fuels your emotional eating. Discipline, think about this word. The root of discipline is the word disciple. There's the religious connotation of disciple, but really, in its essence, to be a disciple means to be a student. And in this case, discipline, self discipline, means to be a student of you. It's to be obsessed with what's right for me. And in my client's case, it's ice cream. It's the final frontier of her weight journey. It's like it's been so distorted by her ideas of how it's affected her weight, but she never really tested this theory. And so interesting that this summer, where she's had it most all days, she's had some form of ice cream. Have there been some overeats? Yes. Has she gained a few pounds? Yes. But the clarity that came from continuing to plan for it and really the discernment that comes from like, hey, I don't really like keeping a lot of ice cream in the house. I like keeping smaller containers. It makes me feel those are like her boundaries that make her feel safe, right? Around ice cream. And like it's in a good balance between her desire and her enjoyment of the food. So she's a disciple of herself. She's got self-discipline. This can only come from being willing to get it wrong so that you can try again to refine, refine, refine. Okay. So, how to practice permission-based eating. Here's your steps. There's 6. You might want to stop the podcast, write down each one. Number 1, choose one food you've labeled off limits. Maybe it's bread, full fat cheese, whatever it is that you usually restrict. You're going to buy or prepare it with intention, not as a cheat meal, not in secret, but you're going to put it on your plan and you're going to follow through by enjoying it with permission. You're going to eat it with 0 distractions. This means being in your body, tasting the food, being fully present with the enjoyment of your food. This is so important. No ticker tape of judgment playing in your mind. Just remind yourself you're safe, you're enjoying the food. Okay. Ideally, you'll have the food with some hunger present and within the amount of eating, that you are eating to. For most people trying to lose weight, that would be about 70% full. Or maybe it's more than that because it's up like a planned overeat. But really, ideally, I would like you to have this food when you're hungry for it. And I'd like you to stop when you've had that right percentage of enough. And this way, it's not like you're also getting the ticker tape commentary about how this is also an overeat. Okay. So to do this, I also did this work with ice cream. And I tried it going to Dairy Queen because I like a soft serve from Dairy Queen with chocolate sauce. And I was working with permission based eating on this, and I was going to Dairy Queen after I had my dinner. And it was like ruining it for me because I knew I couldn't have the amount that inner me really wanted to have of the ice cream because I was already at my percentage full. So it was like ruining the experience because I was over full, which isn't, let's face it, enjoyable. It's uncomfortable. So then I was like, okay, well, how can I have the ice cream and not overeat it? And it was like, well, you're not going to do that during the work week, right? Earlier for dinner. That just doesn't seem right. And then I realized I really enjoyed eating ice cream in the daytime, you know, when it's hot, when it's sunny, and, you're kind of like hungry around lunchtime. So that's what I started to do. I planned it twice a month on Saturday afternoons. And that's how I practice permission based eating with ice cream. And to this day, that's when I enjoy it the most is like I have it for my lunch on a Saturday afternoon when it's hot and it just feels like a treat. It feels like a weekend enjoyment and I just really enjoy it so much. Okay, so number 1 is choose the food. Number 2, plan for it, then follow through and buy it or go get it with intention and permission. Number 3, eat it with 0 distractions. If this means you don't take your family or your posse with you, do that. Have it alone so you can really be present with your food. No scrolling, no multitasking, just you, your senses, and your food of choice. Okay. Enjoy it. Number 4, slow down, really taste it. Be present with eating. It is such an enjoyable experience to truly eat the food you love with time to really taste it and slow down. Number 5, notice your hunger and satisfaction cues. So this means pausing now and then to go into the space of your body and ask yourself, is the enjoyment still building? Or has my enjoyment of this peaked? How full is my stomach? If I keep eating, we know that like your enjoyment of the food starts to go down the more full you get. So you want to hit that sweet spot of that you have receptivity for the food, you're hungry for it, and that you're stopping before the negatives of keeping going build. Okay. Number 6, reflect afterward. This is really important. So you'd ask yourself, like, how was this? How did this feel different from when I have it because I'm sneak eating it, or I'm having a binge from it, or I'm judging myself for having it, or it's an overeat? How is this different? Would I choose this again? What would I do differently? What were my feelings when I was enjoying this? And then your job would be to plan it again in the frequency that you've kind of decided feels safe for you to practice with. Okay, this is how you build trust with food, not in theory, but in experience. Really getting out there in the analog world and enjoying your food with permission. Okay, which brings us to the next part. Once you start enjoying your food with permission, notice If you're having it when you're hungry and you're stopping when you pretty much want to stop, your chances of gaining weight from having this food are going to be less. If you're trying to eat the food on top of when you're already full from your meal, that's going to represent more overeating, which is going to probably negatively affect your weight. So set yourself up for success. Um, for many women, the scariest part isn't the food, but it's the meaning that they've attached to the weight fluctuations that can accompany normalizing your food by eating with permission. And this is a great place for you to put yourself in. It's deeply uncomfortable, but it will allow you to answer that question, which is, if I gain weight from this experiment, what am I making that mean about me? If it's that old ticker tape of negative commentary, like I'm failing, I'm out of control, I've given up, um, or I can't control myself, then I want you to really challenge those ideas by really thinking about what you're assuming is true here. The truth is, you're learning how to normalize food, and you've likely been overeating it if your weight is going in the wrong direction. So it means that you're learning what is the sweet spot about how much and how often you can enjoy this food, and under what circumstances, where you minimize the negatives, which are weight gain. So maybe it's like, you know, maybe I'm having it too often, or maybe I'm having too much of it. How can I experiment with having a little bit less when I do have it? Or maybe not having it every night after dinner. Maybe just one or two fewer times during the week or during the month will decrease my weight changes. And your job is to figure this out. This is the work where you're like, I want what I want, but I also want the weight that I want. How can I marry these things together in a way, a frequency and a volume where I can have the thing I want and also be the weight I want to be? So it's a negotiation, right? Based on the playing out of your weight experiment and your habits around food each week. So gaining a few pounds doesn't mean you failed. It means that you're figuring out what the right combination is of enjoying these foods in frequency and volume, and also being able to get to the weight that you want to get at or stay at the weight that you are. This is a process of healing from years of overcorrection, over restriction, and overreaction. Because sometimes you need to swing the pendulum out of diet mode into permission, and let's fuck it up a little bit so that you can just know that, like, where your natural boundaries are, instead of just throwing yourself in food jail and saying it's not worth experimenting with because that's too scary, right? And one of those options, the one where you actually get in there and get your hands dirty and figure out your limits, is the one that's going to leave you a much more confident eater, one who knows her natural limits and doesn't argue with them because they give you the best of both worlds. Okay. And allows you to trust your body that if you're gaining weight, your body is giving you good feedback. Like, this is too much fuel. Like, I will gain if you're eating this much. Is that what you want? Maybe that answer is yes. Maybe you're trying to artificially keep yourself at too low of a weight, and you actually want a lifestyle around food that allows you a little bit more food. And that's honest. But maybe, you just haven't got in there to figure out, like I did with the chocolate croissants, that having some of these more indulgent foods, right, with permission, actually naturally balances my weight in this like beautiful way where it actually feels easier. So it's about trusting your body enough and yourself enough to know whatever happens, you can figure it out. That's growth. So if this episode made you feel uncomfortable, I'm glad. It means that this is the work that's left for you. I want you to get in there and stretch out of your comfort zone a little bit to do some of this work. Permission based eating isn't about eating all you want whenever you want, where your weight goals go out the window. It's negotiating an agreement where you figure out how to have the habits around food that are truly eating the things that you want to eat and figuring out how to be the weight that you want. Believe me, trust me when I say there is a reality where you get to have the best of both worlds, where your weight is where you want it and your food lifestyle is one that beautifully reflects how you want to eat, where no food is demonized. So the permission-based eating worksheet is available to you if you go to hbeardsley.com/subscribe. That's HBEARDSLEY.com/subscribe. I'm making it available to all my email subscribers so you can do this work for yourself. I offer coaching-based tools to email subscribers, and there's all kinds of perks there. So I invite you to join me. There's journaling prompts, there's checkbox exercises and thought reframes to help you as you engage in this arena of permission-based eating. The link is in the show notes. And if you want to DM me or talk more about this episode, find me on Instagram at Thrive in Midlife on the episode 86 reel. And let me know how you're doing with this or how you like the worksheet. I really hope that you loved it. And I'm here for support if you need me. Okay. Find me over on Instagram. Stay focused and so long. Hey, if this episode resonated for you, then let's connect. Visit hbeardsley.com/subscribe. That's HBEARDSLEY.com/subscribe and become a VIP subscriber. You'll learn how to work with me. You'll get 2 free gifts, access to exclusive VIP content, and get a discount on the digital follow-through planner.